My name is Nolan BlackCloud, and this is my second project for the semester. This is the BlackJack dealer. Going over the PLC I/O slots first, we have this digital input here first that has these sensors: an arm position sensor, right, left, up, and this last one was supposed to be down. However, that sensor does not give a digital input. Over here, I'm not too sure what this sensor was supposed to be, but you got the pendant selector switch, pendant deal button, and pendant bust button. For the next one, it's a pendant hit, stand, emergency stop, pressure sensor, and a two-hand anti-tie down right and left. For the outputs here, we have the arm extend output, arm retract output, arm left output, and arm right output. And then for the next card, it's arm up output, arm down output. No idea what this is, and a please purge light. And right here we have the analog input voltage, which ties to the pressure sensor analog. Next here is our HMI, which starts off with this play now screen. So you would click onto that, and it's a display go to that goes into your dealer screen that has everything you would need to start playing the game, independently of the pendant. So you have your hit, stand, and these are stacked on top of each other. It's a player 2, player 1, and dealer bust. And then at the way bottom of that is a deal now card. Right here is the player decision, so win by 21, win, lose, push. These are the player buy-ins for whenever the player balances go under the minimum bet, which is $5. And these display go-to screens just navigate throughout. Uh, right here you have your betting section, and then your cards that would show up corresponding to how many cards the player actually has, and then extra right here to see what the other players have, whether they stand or double down or busted. And the same thing applies to the player 2 screen. Nothing changes besides just it being player 2 and then that current balance in the top right. Next is the PLC program that has 4 stages that come off of this main routine. So safety OK into a safety OK bit, a jump to subroutines for the different stages, and then a flip flop timer. For the first stage of the 4, we have the betting routine, which starts off with the starting balance rung, and this will start you with 100. And then into the betting, we have our bets. So whenever the player 1 bet 5, 10, or 25, it'll latch these in and subtract these from the balance, and then it'll latch in a player 1 betted. The same applies to the player 2 betting. And then the next rung I have here is when the player wins by 21, and this is dependent on the double down. So if they did double down, they will get this right here, and then if they didn't, they get the normal. And these are just multipliers that will be based off of what would be actually be won. And player 2, same thing. And then the player 1 double down rung, which just subtracts that extra bit that they would be doubling down with. So if they bet in 5, they will double down and subtract an extra 5. Same for player 2. And then the player 1 rung, you have the addition of to the balance. So the player 1 double down did not happen, and player 1 won 5. They'll have 10 to go, and then same applies to the 10 and 25. And then whenever you do double down, you have these extra values that are added onto it for doubling down. Same for the player 2 rung. Player 1 push rung, so it just gives back whatever the player betted if they do push with the dealer. And similar concept to the rest, just player 1 double down or did not. Same for player 2. And then player 1 and 2 decision rungs. So this just shows whether they lost, busted, or pushed, or cannot play. And that just puts down a bit that they're down. And then we have a player 1 win or loss, or player 2 win or loss. This just shows the decision that we had in the HMI. And the all players not betted bit, that just show that they have not betted yet. And then the player 1 cannot bet rung is here. So if they're under 25, it'll show this, so they can't click on the 25 bet. Player 1 under 10 can't click the 10. Player 1 under 5 can't click the 5. And player 1 is out, so these two are pretty much just the same bit. Just to show that they cannot play. And the same for player 2 bits. Next up in the steps is the dealing routine. So it starts off with our safety OK and our first three deal latch right here, or HMI deal clicked. Then these go through the pendant deal button or the HMI deal. And these have two options. So you have the player one betted and cannot play, and the player two betted and cannot play. Or you could flip this pendant switch that allows you to play without having any HMI in the way. The arm position reset rung, this just resets the arm whenever it's stuck in a certain position and needs to be reset whenever you first click for a deal. And then the first card grab rung slash dealer rung, this is just the start of the grabbing of cards. So the arm extend, suction down, arm retract, arm left. These are just timers that hit bits and they run off of the corresponding timer from before. Or they have a dealer hit latch, which dealers hit and then they'll run through the timer and then go through. Then here is a count up counter with the dealer cards. So this just shows how many cards are actually in the slot at any given time, and then a latch. And then for here, it's kind of the same thing, second card grab. So it'll just show a different conditions. So the first three deal, player two hit, or player two double down, it'll start this timer. And then the steps after that will go. And then again, a count up counter for player two cards. Lastly, the third card grab, which is for player one as well. Same thing, just a bunch of timers. Player one hit and double down, player one hit, double down, or the first three and second three deal. And then it goes through to the first and second deal locking rung. That just shows if it's in the first three deal or the second three deal. And then into this counter right here that allows the players to play whenever the end deal counter has hit two. And that gets you into the playing routine. And lastly is the output rung. So all those bits from the timers that go off when they're done just go into here. Arm extend, arm retract, arm left, right output, suction up, and suction down. Starting off with the third step in our PLC program, we have our ready to play, which was off of the end of the dealing routine, which allows the players to play. And it goes into player one playing first, so you got a double down available right here. And then if they do double down, a player one hit, player one stands, and player one bust. And these are just the bits that go through that latch each other out. And then the actual input, which is a pendant hit or the HMI hit, or pendant stand or HMI stand, and so on. Here is the double down dealt, so it'll latch on that this player is done now, right here with the double down dealt. And then the player one stands, player one busts, or player one cannot play. If the player one cannot play is true, then that just shows that they have the under five balance. And so they just go through. And player one unlatches when player one is done. Same thing for player two, go through, looks the same. And for the dealer playing, the only thing that changes is the double down feature because they don't double down. It's a dealer. And then you have the player one bus and player two bus just automatically goes for a play or a dealer done because there's no point in playing whenever they both busted. Down here is the game restart rung that just starts off our endo reset. Please purge that just shows that the arm is moving at any given time, or the game is done, which shows the game restart timer right here. So this happens off of any decision that's ever made. So player one played, or player two and player two down, or player one push lock. Goes through all the conditions that can happen. And then here we have a buy-in rung for the short time of the game restart timer, which is 5 seconds. The dealer can click a button on the HMI that'll allow a buy-in of 100. And then player one out or player one under 5, that's a player one cannot play. Dealing bit, and then the player one or players cannot play wrong right here. That unlatch whenever they have greater than the 5. Lastly, we have our end or restart routine, which shows the safety OK bit that unlatches parts of the program and restarts counters. for the game restart timer, it also unlatches and does essentially the same thing, but it keeps out a few bits to keep the game flowing in case you don't want to, you know, end the game and restart. You just restart the game and keep the same balances going for the players. And then for the actual demonstration of the program, here is the running of the ARM and the HMI together. So we have both players that betted and the deal has been clicked. So now it's going to deal out cards. So now with the cards being dealt, you can finally play with the HMI now. So with the cards coming out, dealer 6, player 2 has 6, and player 1 has an 8 or 18. So player 1 would go first. Ideally, they would stand. And now it is player two's turn to play. And with a 6 to a dealer 6, hit. I have a 16, stand, and then the dealer would play 13 and at the hit. And then they have a 23. So the dealer busts and both players win. So nearing the end of the video and the demonstration, here is just a trial run just to show that the player 1 and 2 balance can keep up with the previous game and it doesn't just reset. Overall, this was a fun project, and I feel like I really did well with this one. There are some problems still with the pneumatics or PLC program, such as right here, every once in a while, the player 2 deal will get to the right spot but then undershoot, and then the card will just be forced into that wall. I'm not too sure how to fix that. I tried tweaking with the pneumatics and the PLC program, but it just doesn't seem to work. However, some things I did well with adding extra features such as the betting, the doubling down, and the winning by 21 or pushing.